What's up, guys? It's been a while. I fear it's been over a month since I've made my 30s for 30 series. First, I want to start by I said to myself once I was going to get back on YouTube that I really wanted to be my true authentic self. I've always been my authentic self in person and on the internet, but have always held back because my personality is a lot to handle. And it always gets taken the wrong way. And I just have decided that I'm just tired of living in this unauthentic influencer era. So here's me at 8 p.m. filming for you guys in my Halloween pajamas because it is Halloween week. I actually love this for me. Number one, we got bangs. We got bangs since my last video. Number two, this is my series 30s for 30 where we talk about starting over in your 30s. If you've already started over or if you're thinking about starting over, what are some things that you're going to be going through and just things that I've been going through that I just find to be super relatable. Everyone nowadays has a podcast. Everybody is like this guru about life and everything like that. And I really wanted to come back onto YouTube and just be myself and feel freely to be that. I even started posting working out videos again of just like behind the scenes because I want to make the YouTube space fun. I'm a big YouTuber in the sense of like as soon as I wake up in the morning, YouTube is the first platform that I put on. I think that if you're in your 30s, that's just the era that we're in, right? Is like that was what we grew up with was YouTube. We always had the latest YouTube videos. And one thing about the fitness industry, it's so oversaturated now and everyone is an influencer. And I just find it when you're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, that it's just these lavish lives that aren't relatable to people, right? Like you could influence in fitness without showing these perfect pictures, perfect bodies, perfect everything. And it just really made me think if I was going to do content creation full time, who did I want to be and who did I want to show up as? And honestly, for years of my life, I spent not liking myself, especially when I was living in LA. I was really trying to just be something that I'm not when I reflect back on it. Because now I've been in Florida for 4 solid months and just thinking about the person I was, and not that I was a bad person, but I think I was just very confused in the regard of like, who did I want to be? I think I was just trying to be something I wasn't, wanting to be this big shot celebrity trainer, the girl at the red carpet events, the girl training celebrities, like at every single event, saying yes to everything. And then I just slowly started to realize that that wasn't really who I was deep down inside. Don't get me wrong. My LA life was so much fun. I had a blast for those 6 years, but now it was time for me to mature and step into my 30s and step into a more adult version of myself, learn to carry and conduct myself differently, learn how to just be different, especially because I want to be a wife, I want to be a mother, and there's just certain characteristics about that lifestyle that just aren't appealing to men. And that really just weren't appealing to myself anymore. So this series, for today's episode or chit chat, we should just say, is I want to talk about breaking generational trauma and curses in your 30s and how difficult it is when you start to realize once you're in isolation, once you've already started over, or when you're thinking about starting over and you just put yourself in that isolation period. So I think that in our 30s, one thing that we have to realize is our parents did the best that they could with the tools that they had. So when your parents were having us super young, they were like 23, 24, 25. My parents were 26 when they had me. I look back at where I was at 26, just moving to California, and I couldn't even imagine having a child. I could barely take care of myself, guys. So I think back to a lot of things and I give my parents a lot of grace. My parents were great parents, and there's just things that I realized in my 30s that I just can't carry anymore. And it's not a bad thing, but it's like you have to stop people pleasing and living for everybody else in your immediate life and start living for you, especially when you're starting over and you're in this isolation period. You're losing friends, maybe you're falling out with family members, or maybe you're just not agreeing anymore. And then then you start to realize like things and characteristics that you took from your parents that you may not want to take for your future. And now is the time to kind of revert that and get more emotionally in tune with yourself and just become a little bit different than the vision that you had or the things that you follow from your parents. So there's just a couple things that we have to remember is that parents never came with a parenting manual. But I think that because back then therapy was such a taboo subject, talking about your emotions and feelings was such a taboo subject, like our parents' generation was really just taught to suck it up and that your emotions don't matter and it's just time to move on. So they passed that down to us, not really knowing and understanding what it could do to us in our adult life, or I could just speak for myself from experience, is that I was always brought up to be tough and I was always brought up to be independent. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, one thing that my parents taught me is that they would rather me be street smart versus me being book smart because I needed to learn how to survive in the real world. And I really just needed to learn the value of a dollar. I needed to, learn that life is hard and that you just have to get up every single day and go to work and you have to pay your taxes and pay your bills and no one is going to come and save you. And yes, all those things are true, but I feel like, especially as a female, it just made me hard. It made this hard exterior for me where I'm very blunt, I'm very sarcastic, and there's nothing wrong with my sparkling personality, but it's taking me out of my feminine energy and has now put me into my more masculine energy. And it wasn't until like recently, like I'm talking a week or two ago, where I realized like, oh my God, like, yeah, I've adapted that culture from my parents and I was never taught how to be soft. I also grew up in New York where it's like you had to hustle and bustle to be able to survive in a state like that, like Empire State of Mind, like all of those things are very true. Like it's a hard, my life wasn't hard. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I had a hard life because it wasn't. It definitely was not. Let's not go down that road because I hate when people lie about those things. But like that New York lifestyle is a hard exterior, right? Like they always say like messing with women from New York is she'll curse you out and be like, yo, bro, was it? And it's so true. Like it's so true. I've adapted those things from my parents and taking a step back and being more emotionally in tune with myself, I've realized that these are generational traumas that I want to break for myself because it is healthy talking about your emotions. It is healthy to have conversations and not jump shitty with people. Or one thing that I have a bad habit of doing that I'm really trying to make a conscious effort now in my 30s to break is I go silent when things or people or something like really offends me because I don't want to fight and argue with people. So I'd rather just like hold it in. My feelings are stupid. This doesn't really matter. And why should I convey that? And then what starts to happen is while I'm being silent, I'm subconsciously like giving an attitude at the same time. And last weekend, one of my friends checked my behavior with that. And he was like, why do you do that? Like, why can't you just tell me what happened and like what you're upset about? And the premise is like, I just don't want to argue because I grew up in a household where it was like an argument about feelings and emotions and stuff like that because their parents passed that down to them. Anytime that they had to communicate something with their parents, everything had to be this big war, this big ordeal. So naturally, you either become a product of your own environment or you break the curse. And I think that our parents' generation, they just never knew how to learn how to break the curse. And that our generation and the generation after us, I'm a millennial, so I think that's Gen Z. They learned how to break that. And we're still trying to struggle to break that. And I think it's just really healthy to try and do your best to break these things so then you don't carry them on because then we start dealing with them in our 30s. And then that's when dating gets harder because we're dealing with all this emotional trauma that actually isn't ours and that we're just subconsciously carrying throughout. There's other things that, like I catch myself doing that when I have talks and conversation with my parents that it's just not, in my eyes, it's just not worth it to me. I'm not going to argue over X, Y, and Z to try and figure out A, B, and C. But unfortunately, like my parents just didn't grow up like that, where it is worth it. It is worth the argument, and it's not. So I think that the most important thing for us in our 30s is to tell ourselves that, like, hey, I'm super grounded with my own emotions because I've identified that I do X, Y, and Z, and I no longer want to do those things. I just simply don't want to do what my parents did, and I simply don't want to become the things that my parents became. And again, not in an offensive way. I can only speak for myself. Like, my parents are great. Like, my parents love me. They want me to succeed. They want me to really make something of myself and watch me become everything that they didn't, or they want to give me a life that they just never had. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I give my parents a lot of grace because I look back and I'm like, you just didn't have the proper tools that we now have. Like, we could watch YouTube videos about detachment. We could watch YouTube videos about positive self-talk. We could watch videos and we can go to therapy and we could do all these things where they just didn't have those tools. So it's okay for us to just take a step back and realize and identify and be like, this conversation can't be for me and I need to remove myself from it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It might hurt our parents' feelings or they might take it personal, but I think it's my famous saying, and one of my friends always makes fun of me for saying this, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's so important when you're conveying things because there's a difference between you belittling somebody versus you telling somebody about themselves. Like, when you're like, you do this, you do that, and da da da, that's how you get a rise out of your parents. But when you can sit down and calmly talk to them, be like, hey, look, these have been the occasions, this has been the situation, this is how it's made me feel, and I've identified that I just don't want to feel this way. I don't want to carry on your emotional baggage and put it onto me because my emotional baggage is something I'm already dealing with. And I think once we can get into that isolation period and really journal and really dig deep about things that we don't want to carry on from that and really apply it in our lives, that's when we become better people. Since I've been in this isolation mode, I've realized that I've just lost a lot of friends, and they don't check in on me anymore. We don't have things to talk about. I don't want to talk about drama anymore. So there's no thrill to some friendships that I used to have. And I realized, like, I used to thrive off drama. And when I realized, like, why did I used to thrive off drama? It was because, those were characteristics that I had taken on from generational trauma and curses. Like, my mom's whole side of the family, they love drama. And it was just one thing that, like, I've now realized in my adult life that I want peace. That's why I moved to Orlando. I'm craving peace. I'm craving normal. And that's why also, like, why I had chosen to live in LA at that time. I loved drama. And LA is nothing but drama. It's Hollywood. Duh. Like, the events, the people, the things that they talk about, the things that they like, they thrive off of it. And there's nothing wrong with that for most people. But for me, it became a point in my life where I'm like, do I have an issue with everybody? Am I the drama? I think I'm the drama. And I realized that it was just a poor characteristic that I needed to change for myself. And I really needed to outgrow it. Not only was it me becoming a product of my own environment, it was also me putting myself into that environment in Los Angeles because that's what made me comfortable, which is kind of sick, and twisted. And then when I removed myself from that and I was sitting in these four walls, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 walls, I was like, wow, it's quiet. It's so quiet. Do I like quiet? Because I'm not quiet. But why is it that I'm not quiet? Am I not quiet because the loudest one in the room happens to always be the most insecure? And then that's when it all clicked for me. I was carrying generational trauma that wasn't mine, but making it my trauma and projecting it. So when I realized, like, I'm losing a lot of friendships because I don't have the, hey girl, oh my God, did you see what so-and-so wore on that movie carpet that they went to. Oh my God, did you see what she was wearing to that fitness event? Oh my God, did you see? I don't have any of that anymore. So it's like, I don't have a reason to call people anymore. I don't have to be codependent on having conversation based on negativity anymore. And that was just something that I really wanted to grow out of. And I'm not perfect. I'm not saying like I woke up in my 30s and like all of a sudden I'm different, because that's not the truth. I would be lying if I said that. But it's just something that I'm making a conscious effort. And I think that it's something that everyone needs to make a conscious effort of, is realizing what are things that I'm carrying and identifying as mine, but they actually might not actually be mine. And it's a hard topic to actually sit down with yourself and have these conversations. But this is the beautiful part about starting over in your 30s, is you get to do all these things, especially if you've picked up and moved to a new city. I now get the opportunity to go meet new people, and I get to be a new version of myself. Because when people say you've changed, I don't take that as a bad thing. I'm supposed to change as I get older. Now, am I supposed to keep grounding things about me, my morals, my character? Like, of course, you're supposed to keep those things. Like, if you're raised on good morals and good character, those are things that you want to carry. But I'm supposed to change. I'm supposed to grow. I don't need to identify as the same drama queen that lived in LA that needed to be the center of attention. Now I'm perfectly okay with going out to places and not being known, and just like not having people come up to me and know me, and not thriving off of being the center of attention anymore. I don't need to. And it's because I'm, one, identifying that that was, again, something I was taking on that wasn't mine and making it my identity, and something I was subconsciously doing, but it was really just deep down inside. I was insecure with myself. I didn't really like who I was. I didn't really enjoy myself. I allowed the other opinions of people to live in my head rent free all the time. And I allowed people to tell me who I was without me telling me who I am. So I say all this to say that when we're starting over, it's a beautiful thing. It's tough. Like, I'm still struggling. I'm on month number 4. And like, you guys know, I talked about this previously. I've launched a business. I'm doing online coaching. I'm now doing content creation full-time, UGC content. I've now launched a new series called How to Stay Fit When You're on a Trip, where I am now bridging the gap between the travel industry and the fitness industry, teaching people that you can go on trips and not throw away all of your fitness. My microphone just shut off. That you can travel and that you can still stay on your fitness goals by visiting hotels, especially because there's a difference between traveling and vacationing. When you're vacationing, you have some leeway, but when you travel for business and stuff like that, bridging that gap. So, and it's a tough industry to be in, because most people look at it, they're like, oh, when I travel, I just want to eat like shit and do these things, right? So it's hard doing content creation, trying to get collaborations with all this stuff. So now that I've launched all these things, like, it's not easy. And on top of that, I'm really trying to make a conscious effort every single day to be a better person and to become the best version of Lindsey that I can possibly be. It's just not easy to self-identify like your past and the person that you used to be versus the person that you want to be now. So anybody out there that has watched and made it through this full episode, thank you. And I really appreciate it. And I really hope that these 30s for 30 is really resonating with you, that I hope that it, one, either inspires you, that you've made it to a point in your life in your 20s or in your 30s now where you're just sick and tired of doing the same old thing. You're clocking in and clocking out, making somebody else money. You're looking at yourself in the mirror and then you quickly have to turn away because you just genuinely don't like the person that you've become, or that you're just sick of the lifestyle that you're living and you're craving change, you're craving a new start. And it's okay. There's tons of us out there. I get people and messages from people who are like, you're just so young. I started over in my 40s. I started over in my 50s. And, you know, it's been such a beautiful process. And I won't lie. it's tough, but I thank God every single day when I'm journaling in my what am I grateful for section, like that I had this opportunity to start over and that I had the willpower to literally wake up one day and say fuck it and quit my career cold turkey and give a month's notice, and then also pack up my entire luxury high rise from across the street from the crypto arena in downtown Los Angeles, and pack up my beautiful view that I have known for the last 3 years, sell everything that I have, and move with 11 boxes and 4 suitcases across the country to move into our vacation home where nothing is mine. This is my family's vacation home. The bedroom that is mine is not really mine. My stuff is still in boxes. I don't have any of my own furniture. Like, it was a difficult decision, but I will say it was the best decision that I ever made for myself, because now the quality of my life has increased. Maybe I've decreased, like, this luxury lifestyle that I used to have, but my happiness has increased. So I really do hope that these resonate with you. And I promise I'm now back into consistency. I was getting a little just down on myself that they weren't hitting and doing well. But I know the thing with YouTube is that you have to be consistent in order for you to be considered a YouTuber and for you to cultivate a community that resonates with you. Because I think, like I said earlier, people are now craving authenticity because they're tired of the average influencer who's just trying to sell them some bullshit. So I hope you guys have a great one. I am logging out with my Halloween pajamas, and I hope that everyone has a safe, happy, and healthy Halloween. Remember, just because those candies are little doesn't mean that they don't add up. They do. They absolutely do.